Hi there, welcome to our last presentation for the Sound Healing Conference. I'm David Gibson, and thank you all for joining us, especially if you've been here for the whole time. Oh my God, it's really recording all these. It's just been quite amazing, and for me to actually go through it. So, again, thank you for being here. Today's presentation is on the Sound Education Association for Children. But before we begin, you know, as babies, we had it down. We were professional sound healers. And then, as you know, if you had anything going on, you just let it out, like, wah, right? We were totally expressive. And then around one or two, they say, shh, shh. And then you go to school and it's no more sound, right? You go to work and it's like, don't interrupt each other, except around here, right? And we lose that God-given ability. So the way I want to start the meditation, basically, is to have you do the sound of how you're feeling right now, okay? I'll do it and you do it. But remember, we have a strict rule around here. You can never, ever make a wrong or bad sound. It can never be out of pitch. It can never be wrong in any way. It's always perfect. It's a very strict rule. So just make the sound of how you're feeling. Okay? Right. That's a really fun one, especially a really fun one to teach your kids, as we'll be talking about. Okay. Let me share my screen and let's begin here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oops. Let me get to the first screen. There we go. Okay. So about 4 years ago, I was at a New Living Expo and had a booth there. And this woman came to she was going to the building next door to a antiques fair, and she accidentally came into into the wrong building, accidentally bought a ticket and ended up at our booth, and she owned a Montessori school, right? And she got really excited and was a part of a foundation that got us $100,000 grant to take our entire curriculum from our school from our sound healing school into her program, into her Montessori schools, right? Oh, by the way, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A, and we're going to collect them and answer them at the end, right? In the Q&A in Zoom, or if you're in YouTube, you can just put them in there, and we'll collect those questions as well, right? So we, over 3 years, we created 2,500 exercises for the kids from 3 months all the way up to 18 years old at every age group, from 3 months to 18 months, 18 months to 3 years, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12. And sometimes we even made it a little more refined. So we have over 2,500 exercises for every age group based on the books that are out there on child brain development for each age group, right? We've now finished completely 500 exercises, and we have them ready for homeschooling now, and I'll show you that in a bit. And so we're looking to advance this to the next level by setting up the association and taking all of these exercises, finishing the exercises and taking them into public and private schools around the world. And we're now getting funding to be able to do this. So I'm really hoping to get a full range of educators and administrators to be able to help move this forward. It's really the main focus of what we're doing today. Okay? So, it's really ultimately what we're doing is getting the kids in their body with vibration, right? It's really about feeling vibration in their body, which is, when it's stable, it is more peaceful. There are a lot of problems in schools right now, right? At all age group. The technology is the number one problem. The head of the Montessori school said that in the last 5 or 6 years, the ADD has gone off the charts. And everybody believes it is totally because of screen time, right? Screen time is making it so kids cannot focus, right? So that's one of the biggest problems. But there's all types of problems. I mean, not just screen time, but the EMF from the screens is like destroying kids' brains. There's some really good research around this. It's really, really bad, right? And not only that, but TV and even movies or even cartoons is rapid technology. They found that, just changing the view of the camera, it takes a person about 4 or 5 seconds to reorient as to where they are in the perspective. But when it's changing every 4 or 5 seconds, you totally get disoriented, especially the young ones. So it's really causes scatterbrainedness, right? But it's also the content and the violence, I mean, we know that, right? So it's really a major problem in creating a lot of stress in the young ones. But there's also noise that causes stress, parental stress, right? And then academic stress. The books on childhood development are now saying homework is destroying our kids, right? If they have too much homework, they get really stressed out doing the homework, and so they don't sleep well. And then the next day they come to school and they can't focus. And then that makes it so it's even harder to do their homework. It's a really bad spiral. So a lot of people in the field are now recommending to get rid of homework for the kids. But there's also societal and cultural stressors. I mean, Facebook is probably one of the biggest problems there is. Can cause such stress in kids, right? So it leads to behavioral, social, and academic dysfunction. I saw a show on NPR just before the virus hit, and it was all about the intense amount of depression, anxiety, and even suicide in schools because kids are so stressed out, right? So the solution is syncing the science and vibration, of course, around here, right? And the wisdom and experience from those that have come before us, right? So what we've done is we've taken these 5 areas and synthesized them into all of the criteria for creating the actual exercises. Let's go through each one by one here. Maria Montessori's basic premise is better connection to self, better connection to others, and better connection to nature and spirit. She was spiritually oriented, so she did talk about spirit, which is very cool. We actually have to sometimes peel that away and not talk about spirit for some schools, but it was cool that she actually talked about spirit and nature as well. But then we're also looking at all of the 30 books on brain development, and there's a lot of concepts that they talk about. These are some of the main ones. They talk about being present in the moment with the teachers, especially. Emotional engagement for the young ones is really important. So they actually see that you're engaged directly with them, right? It creates what are called mirror neurons in the brain. And then there's intention and affirmations. Novel stimulation is really about having new information, new exercise, new things that keep their attention so they're not bored. Multisensory awareness and integration is huge. And that is like combining like sound and visuals and multiple ways of perceiving things and combining them so that they are tuning into multiple things at once, which takes their brain into a whole different realm as to being focused on one thing at a time. And of course, movement is not only good for health, but it's been proven to be good for actual for the brain to be able to focus, right? But so these are all of the books that we read in order to learn about this. And if you're going to be in the association, I'll send you this list, right? One of my favorites is Daniel Siegel. I actually saw him talk. He's the one that's like really, really against, any homework. And here's a whole nother list of books as well, right? So we're using the concepts in here, and then what we did is we basically broke all of these concepts down into 4 areas: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, right? Overall connection are exercises that are a combination of all of these: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. We couldn't break them out. Sensory refinement is really refining the senses, especially for the young ones, right? So, but then we took each one of these categories and we have purposes that we've come up with that have detailed research and assumptions from the books attached to them. So these are just the list. In a second, I'll show you the actual information for every one of these, right? So we're looking at presence. Presence is just being in the moment. Coherence is what we use for a stable, consistent vibration. Consistency is a stable, consistent rhythm. Interpersonal, and it's real. There's some really good research in the field about that for the brain. There's interpersonal synchrony. That's where you have multiple people doing the same thing at once, which is call and response is really brings that in. Musicality, self-expression, connection to the natural world, smooth flow. If you know about me, that's my big thing, is smooth flow, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And then also how it can help with the career. Physical is body awareness, especially for the younger ones: vestibular stimulation, movement of the body, and motor coordination, auditory and visual coordination, and breath, right? Emotional connection would be emotional engagement, emotional stability. So we even have exercises to actually be able to have them hold stability in the midst of some challenge. Empathy, healthy emotional expression. Under mental and emotional connection, emotional awareness, confidence and self-esteem, optimism, creativity. Mental connection, we're using different rhythms in the instruments and also that they create to entrain the brain into stable, consistent vibrations for brainwave entrainment at delta, theta, alpha, and beta. And we even teach and talk about that later. For focus, concentration, memory, whole brain synchronization. That's where we're doing multi-level awareness at once. Right? We're tuning into both sound and visuals and feelings and the full perspective of perception. Right? Creative thinking, speech and language skills. So analytical skills, spiritual connections, group synchrony also, intention. We teach a lot about intention and cultural awareness, spiritual awareness, even if it's just understanding what other people are talking about in their religions or teachings, right? Sensory refinement. This is all mostly about for the really young ones. Temporal awareness is really important. We've learned that there's a lot of problems with perception where they're not focused enough in the moment to catch every single moment. So it's like they're getting a impression like every 10 seconds instead of every split second. So we have exercises that really help with that, right? So this is all of the information from all of the books, right? That we've identified as important areas. Now let me show you the actual, let's see, the actual assumptions tied to these. I have to stop sharing or stop this full screen. Okay, there we go. Okay, now, so for each one of those that I just listed, we actually have the information from the books on the research and assumptions for presence, coherence, right? For consistency. Oh my God, we could be here a long time looking at each one of these. Like self-expression, the National Association of Music Education states that the music can be used as a tool for expressing and releasing difficult and beautiful emotions. We've taken all of these references and put them into under the categories. But then we have the document where we actually have the quotes from the books for each of these, right? So we've got a really good background supporting the actual reasoning for the exercises that we've created. And as you'll see, for every single one of the 500 exercises we've done so far, we actually put right next to the exercise which one of these research and assumptions it is actually doing for the child. So each exercise will have as many as even 10 things it's actually doing for each child based on the research in the books, right? So we got really grounded information as to what we're doing. And I knew that was important from the beginning if we're going to be taken seriously in this field, right? But it also just informed our exercises in such beautiful ways, as you'll see here in a minute. Okay? So that is all the books, right? And then we took my whole concept, which is really not my concept, it's just the way the world is laid out on vibration that you might have heard me talk about, and that is the 4 levels of vibration, which are frequencies, combinations of frequencies, musical interval relationships, and music. But we've simplified it for the kids. So we now call it peace, frequencies, harmony, musical intervals, and flow, musical flow. So it's peace, harmony, and flow is the basis of what we're teaching. But we're teaching it at each level, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So we've got peace, harmony, and flow aspects for every area, right? So let's look at these. Physically, you got peace, well, that's stable frequencies in the body, right? So we talk about the frequencies of all the different organs, the frequencies but this is not just sound, this is electromagnetic as well. A harmony, it's a relationships, and also even in the quantum world. Harmony, it's a relationship of all the parts of the body. And flow, which smooth flow brings physical peace, health, strength, flexibility, and fluid movement. So this is the physical component. Then there's the emotional peace, harmony, and flow. Stillness in the midst of difficult emotions. Harmony in relationships. Flowing through challenges. We even have an exercise where we actually have the kids go down a row of other kids, and all the other kids try and stop them, right? And then they go again, and all the other kids help them move and actually send, love and things like that to them. It's so sweet, right? So they're learning, but they're also learning about peace, harmony, and flow, and in nature, the components of nature that are in harmony and flowing, right? So we actually begin with the study of peace, harmony, flow in nature, right? Then mentally, peace is better focus and sleep. Harmony means better cognitive skills, critical thinking, the relationship between thoughts, right? And being able to see multiple concepts at once and compare them. And then flow is creativity and enhanced learning capacity, right? Once they're in the flow, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get it. I get it, right? Spiritually, peace, you could expand these even more, but I just put some basic ones here. Connecting to higher and more expansive energies is peace. Seeing the relationship between everything in nature and the world. It's huge, right? Finding one's own natural flow, right? So we got peace, harmony, and flow benefits. Healthy body, greater physical capacity, better focus, creativity and sleep, emotional stability and intelligence, deeper connection to nature, spirit, and self, right? So we're taking that and putting it all together with the Maria's concepts, the book concepts, physical, mental, emotion aspects, uh, uh, and of what they're doing in the books, and then the vibration aspect, physically, mentally, emotionally, and then synchronizing it with our curriculum of 20 instructors. So we had all our instructors come up with exercises, and then we refined them based on these concepts for every age group from 3 months up to 18 years. This was no small project. It was not easy to keep in mind all of these parameters while um, um, while creating exercises that would flow from 3 months at every level cohesively all the way up to 18 years. Okay, so this is how we built it. Okay, or the criteria that it's based on. Okay. Now, the objectives we came up with in the beginning are create a state of peace and calmness, create consistent tone, consistent rhythm, improve the ability to be present, provide a wide spectrum of vibration, develop smooth flow, musicality, refine the ear to voice imitation, call and response, right? Physically, create connection to the body, understand and create more connection to the physical and natural world, stimulate the body with rhythm, provide opportunity for physical movement, isolate abstract concepts to the auditory system and geometry. Emotionally, develop healthy expression of emotions. Oh my God, this is a big one. Develop ability to manage stress and deal with challenges and conflict. Develop conflict resolution skills. I had none of this in school. Zero, zero in school at all. I mean, it's kind of like a can of worms. So schools have been scared to approach it. These days, private schools are doing it a lot more. Develop ability to create peace, attachment, and bonding. That's important for the young ones. Novelty, synchrony, opportunity for physical movement, enhance nonverbal communication, stillness in the silence. I like that one. After the crystal bowl ends, be still and notice that beautiful peace, right? And train the brain into a brainwave state mentally. Synchronize the left and right brain. Develop attention, confidence, critical thinking, ability to be present, different ways of listening, self-expression, creativity, develop a cognition, memory, and language learning, right? And then all the senses for the young ones stimulate the auditory, vestibular, and visual systems, develop auditory discrimination, like the difference between different frequencies and different volumes. So we're refining the perception, sound localization, placement of sounds in a room, especially important for the babies. Auditory tracking, right? And auditory discrimination of short duration sounds that I mentioned. Auditory visual integration. There's a whole a time when the babies are just getting it together where they finally realize that that visual over there is creating the sound. And that's a really important development that they need to actually acquire. And then auditory and motor coordination for actually making sounds and volume perception, right? So these are all the different objectives we came up with. And now these are the 5 tracks that we have developed the exercises under. Physics of vibration, instruments in the voice, music as a way of understanding the world, geometry, and self-expression. All right. Let me share info about each one of these. Physics of vibration. Everything is vibration. Now, we're not just doing sound here. In fact, to call it sound healing, as we'll talk about, is kind of wrong. It's not really, it's not wrong. It's just, it gets in the way. We'll get into that in a bit. Okay, so we're talking about vibration at every level. Sound, electromagnetics, color, light, the quantum field, and geometry, right? Which is, so since vibration is everything, we're teaching the physics of it at the very, so they understand everything. So they understand the underlying structure of the universe. They learn about particles and waves, and then ultimately about building instruments. For the young ones, what we're doing is we actually have them playing with different sound devices, or not devices, but things that even make sound. So they're learning about the basics at the beginning. Here's a great example. We came up with a toy that actually is a little soft toy that they can throw around or play with, that is 4 inches by 3 inches. And inside that toy is a chime that plays a musical fourth. Right? Well, the mathematical ratio of a musical fourth is 4:3. So they're playing with these toys that are mathematically perfect between the geometry and the sound. And when they get old enough, we go, remember that toy you played with when you were little? Let us tell you about the actual physics behind it, right? Between the actual relationship between the geometry and the relationship of the musical intervals, right? So that's a really good example. So they're playing with these different things in the younger years. In the later years, they actually learn the actual physics behind what they played with for all those years, right? Okay. The next area is instruments in the voice. But this is not about learning to play an instrument, right? There's a lot of stress in schools where kids are scared that they're not good enough to play an instrument. I remember going into the first session with the 6 to 12-year-olds, and I said, we're going to do sound, and this one girl says, oh, only those 2 know how to sing. We're not really good singers at all. And I'm like, well, can you do this? Ooh. And she goes, ooh. Can you do this? Ooh. And she goes, ooh. Can you do this? Ooh, 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 ooh. And she does it, right? I'm like, there you go. When you take it out of the realm of being perfect, as we do in sound healing, to you can't do it wrong, then there's this freedom of expression so that they can play with their voice. But there's also the other thing is a lot of the instruments are too hard for them to play, right? I don't have musical ability. I wasn't born with it. Well, let me show you how to play a crystal bowl. You just hit it and go around. Every kid could do it. Every kid can play a tuning fork, right? All of the instruments in sound healing are easy to play. So now everybody's playing an instrument. And then we do concerts with everybody playing an instrument, and there's not one single kid that has any fear about not being good enough, right? It's really cool. In fact, I was thinking in the concerts, they actually will go around with tuning forks and put them on people in the actual concert once COVID clears up, right? So this is not about being a musician, but they are learning these instruments, and that they can go further as a musician if they want, if we find that they're so inclined. So they are learning the basics. So we're starting with the instrument sounds in the beginning to give the kids an awareness of all different sounds. So for the young ones, we're playing every frequency. We're playing every instrument and every tonality of the voice, all the vowels, all the consonants. We're playing music from all different cultures so that the brain of the really young ones up to like a year or even up to 2 years are actually getting the widest range of neural pathways developed in their brain as possible, right? So we're using instruments as a way of just sound therapy, right? But it's also a way of learning about other cultures. And with the voice, it's about learning about language, right? So, and then they learn how to use it to go to a place of peace, right? The young ones are just getting that. So I have to tell you, when we first went in at this Montessori school, they have a whole room of babies from like 3 months up to 18 months. And we'll walk in and they're all crying, right? And I had my crystal ball and I hit the crystal ball, and immediately every single baby in the room turns around, stops crying, and turns around and goes, "What's that?" And they totally get the stability of the vibration, which is peaceful, right? It was very cool, right? So again, after learning about all the different instruments and actually be able to play with them, right, we do concerts and performances as well. Oh, I forgot to mention, in the first physics of sound, they actually once they learn about the physics, they use that information to build instruments from scratch, right? There's some really cool books that we've incorporated on building instruments from just things at home, right? And then they're able to do the concerts with the instruments they built, and they're learning precisely the physics of how these instruments work as they get older, right? Okay, and then the young ones get to play with the instruments that the older ones build as well, okay, in the concerts. Okay, then we go into music. Now, music is a way of understanding the world. Again, it is not about being a professional musician. It's about understanding the way music works in the body, right? If you're in their presentation yesterday, it's like our body is a musical instrument. There are musical flows. There are frequencies in the body. There are musical intervals. There are, all types of tonalities in the body. We are a total instrument, complex instrument, and that's the way the body works health-wise. But also the way music works in nature, like we were talking about, smooth flow. There was one thing that was really interesting that I noticed when I was in Mount Shasta for a retreat last year. It's right next to a river, right? And I'm like kind of in the zone. I'm looking at the flow in the river. I'm thinking about flow, right? And there's this big rock in the middle of the river. And the water, of course, hits the rock and then just flows smoothly around it, right? The water doesn't go, Jesus sucks, right? It just smoothly flows around it, right? So it's so cool to have the kids looking at flow systems, the way it works in nature, to learn about how to work physically, emotionally, and mentally even, right? Okay. Then we look at the pitches and frequencies in us. So they learn from the beginning about different notes and how they feel, right? That's the beginning of their music training, how each note feels, right? And we do exercises on that. Then we go into rhythms big time. Not only rhythms in us, but rhythms in the world, right? The rhythms of the planets, the rhythms of the moon, all the rhythms of the tides, the rhythms of everything in the universe, right? So we tie it into all the rhythms, including the Schumann resonance, right? And then there's smooth flow, and we talk about the music that flows or doesn't flow, and how you can how that works as far as health and for emotional and mental aspects as well, and how there's smooth flow in the world, right? So these are the different categories, kind of the same thing we're just talking about, right, for the music aspect. And then we go into geometry. We've got some of the coolest sacred geometry instructors in the world at our Sound Healing Institute. I mean, Richard Feather Anderson came up with some amazing geometry exercises they'll show you in just a minute. They're so cool. I mean, we start with the meaning of numbers. I mean, instead of like learning to count, let's learn what one means, in ancient times and throughout the universe. I mean, what are the things that are one? What does two mean, right? What is the meaning of three? Which actually then leads to the number of people that are the best for working on specific things in groups, right? Two can often be a problem. You normally want at least three. Five is very cool. So we go through all the different aspects of numbers and spatial harmony, patterns in nature that I'll show you in just a bit, where the kids actually find different patterns in nature, go out in nature and bring them in and put them in boxes of different patterns. Then we got the golden mean and Fibonacci. They're actually doing exercises where they're measuring the parts of the body. So they measure the finger in relationship to the hand, to the arm, and see how that is very close to the golden mean ratio and how off they are, right? It's a very cool exercise when they see how the golden mean exists in their own body, not to mention in nature as well, which we go through in detail. And then we do exercises where we look at the relationship between sound and geometry, similar to what I was talking about before. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay. So in geometry, it gets really detailed of all the different exercises we have for all the different Platonic solids, Archimedean solids. I mean, oh my God, it's so much fun, right? Okay, so that's the fourth track. The fifth track is about self-expression, healthy emotional expression, right? Again, getting the kids to be able to transform emotions themselves. When we do an exercise in our classes, which is one of my favorite that I teach, is how to release stuck emotions with sound, right? It's really effective. I mean, a lot of people say stuck emotions are 100% of disease. If you don't have an emotional opening, toxins physically and in the air and in the food wouldn't get to you, right? So I was really excited about bringing that exercise into the school, into the program right here. And we had a meeting with all of our instructors, and one of our instructors says, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "You can't do that. There's so much trauma in schools that if you're not careful, it could bring up the trauma from sexual abuse, from being beat up all the time. And then they would go home, get really angry, get in a fight, they could get hurt. Social services takes them away. You have to be really careful with this." And I'm like, okay, we'll move it to a little older group, and we'll actually teach about emotional frameworks, understanding emotional frameworks before we start releasing those emotions, and teach about compassion, the sound of compassion, what compassion is, right? So that if anything comes up, it won't be a problem. But this is only when we're introducing the program into a school in the beginning. If they start at 1 year, or even 2 years, they start doing sound, they already had it down as babies, now we continue it, right? And we keep doing sound so they never lose that God-given ability to release stuck emotions, right? So when we start releasing emotions, and we're already doing it when we're 3, right? And then up to 6, right? So it's already built in. So it's a done deal. So ultimately, it won't be a problem. It's only when we're introducing these exercises in the beginning that, some of the kids won't be ready. Now, it was really funny because, you know, the first time I went in, I went in and I was in a room full of 3 to 6. And what we do here at the school is we'll go around and have everybody make the sound of how they feel, right? One by one. And I said, okay, let's make the sound of how you feel. And this is actually an Asian school, but I think a lot of kids, they're not going to be that weird in front of their classmates. And they looked at me like I had two heads. I'm like, oh God, right? And then I said, okay, let's do gibberish. I thought we'd just play. Okay, do gibberish back. They didn't want to do that, right? And so then what I did is call and response. Okay, so I was like, everybody do this. Wee, and they went, wee. Everybody do, blah, 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 blah. Everybody do, ah, ah, right? Everybody do, oh, oh. Everybody did it completely in the group. And within 2 weeks, they were making the sound of how they feel and doing gibberish, right? So it doesn't take much for them to get back to their baby roots, right? So this is huge. This is huge because we are so blocked as emotionally being able to express ourselves, right? This is so critical to be able to express your emotions, especially for some other cultures, but really for every culture, right? This is the dearest part. Also, the woman who owns the Montessori school, she's Chinese and it's an Asian school, and she was adamant. She said this is the most important part because the Asians have a harder time often in the U.S. because Americans are so expressive, right? So she said it was really into us, doing this component of emotional expression, right? Very cool. So those are the 5 tracks. All right, here's the details that we get into in the self-expression. It's a lot of detail. Oh my God, it's been so much work. It's a lot of work. Right? So they learn about these frameworks of boundaries and flow, and they can do research on their own as well. Transforming negative beliefs. It's so cool. The sound of love. It's like I said to the three. I was in the room with the 3 to 6 year olds, like about 25 of them, and I said, "My kitty's not doing well. You guys, can you guys send love to my kitty? And love is like this. We just send love to the kitty." And all the kids kind of like they go, and they all did it. They sent love to my kitty. And then I said, okay, send that love to yourself. And they kind of go, and they all did it. It was so cool, so beautiful, right? The 3 to 6 are ready to go. The 6 to 12, they're a little more concerned about what they're going to look like. The 12 to 18, they're kind of ready to go too, right? It's more the 6 to 12 that are a little careful about what they're going to. But as soon as someone else gets weird, they're ready to go, right? Right? Okay. So these are the 5 tracks. Let me show you some examples of how these exercises are laid out. Okay. Let me grab some. So here we have I'll just start at the 3-month to 18-month. Right? So here we have the 3-month to 18-month. Right? Let me hide this. Okay. So what we do with each exercise is we got the name of the exercise, what track it's in, and the category within that track. We have the age group, whether it's for group or individuals, right? If there's any materials they need, the prerequisites of other exercises they need to do before that, the preparation, the documents that the teacher has to look at before they do it, right? So they're ready to go. Repetition and duration, how many times per if it's going to be done once, is it going to be done multiple times, over how long of a time? Don't have it for that one. And then the presentation, right? So and then down below, after we have the presentation in different variations, We actually have the points of interest for the teacher or the parent in homeschooling, right? And the different points of value developmentally. But then we keep going, and this is where we have what I was talking about earlier, the purposes, presence, right? And that research and assumption that I showed you, coherent, research and assumption. So this exercise does all of these different purposes, right? And each one of these, again, has references to the books, right? So it's kind of, it was a lot of work, but it's so well put together, step by step, right? Let me tell you about some of the exercises for the 3 to 18-year-olds. Right? 3 to 18-year-olds, the babies, right? I'm sorry, 3 months to 18 months is what I meant. 3 months to 18 months, right? So these are the babies, right? They really like frequency sweeps. If you go, not only do they like it, it's really good because you're getting the full frequency spectrum into the brain to create different neural pathways. And there's flow. It's totally creating flow. It's activating the brain in really unique ways. There's also, we do vowels, and we can just do elongated vowels. Ooh, stable, consistent vibration. It's creating the peaks, right? Oh, ah, teaching them the different vowels. It's really cool, right? But then we start doing the vowels with rhythm. It's like ba or ah, 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 ah. Consistent rhythm is really good for them. Ah, ah. We do the different consonants as well. Ba, 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 ba. Totally opening the mouth and showing what's going on with the mouth in each of these consonants. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Sometimes even tapping on the feet. Ba, 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 ba. Or the hands. Ba, right? Creating this consistent rhythm. But what we're also doing is looking for their rhythm. So if the baby's kind of going like this, well, we're going to match it and go ba, 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 right? So matching their rhythm. And so that you're really connecting to them. But the other aspect for the young ones is mirroring. It's really critical that a baby sees that you're reacting to them. The second they see you are reacting to them, that's a major development point, right? So if the baby goes, wah, you go, wah, right? If they go, "Meow," you go, "Meow." If they have a certain emotion, if they're crying, wah, you go, wah, and you can even transform it. Wah, and they look at you like, what is going on here, right? What we learned with the babies, because one of our instructors is a master at this, right, working with kids, is the ones under one are actually, they are not about lullabies. They are about complexity. Under the age of one, babies are ready to listen to Mozart, all different levels of complexity, because they are light beings, right? They are light beings. It's only around one that things start getting pared down and they actually now want to do lullabies, right? So you can do some very complex things with the really young ones, right? They're so awake and so present. They're just present at all realms, right? But then we're doing emotions, okay? It's like, okay, let's do the sound of love to you. Are you ready to go to sleep? Or if you want, it's like looks like you're excited. Let's do some excitement sounds. So we're doing emotional expression for the babies right at the beginning, right? So that's just the 3 months to 18-month olds, okay? Now, then we got the 18-month to 3 years, okay? Here's 18-month to 3 years. So we still keep doing sound, but there's a whole section. Oh, wrong one. Grab the wrong one. Okay, 18 months to 3 years. There we go. Okay. So a lot of it in this age, they're not going to be doing a lot of sound when they're 1 or 2, right? It's to barely start doing a sound around 2, right? But what is good is to actually work with different sounds in nature. We'll be playing with different animal sounds and have cards where they can ultimately compare the sounds to the cards and sounds not only of animal sounds but also other sounds that are common sounds, right? That they will come across. So they're getting kind of their sound perspective, right? And so there's still a lot of I did some affirmation work where like I am love. Okay, everybody, I am love. Sometimes they often won't do the sound with you, but they're still seeing you do it. And sometimes they do start, some of them will actually join in. I am love. I am love. We have a whole list of 150 affirmations that you can do in rhythm, right, for the young ones. Just kind of a little smattering of some things we do for the 18-month to 3-year-olds. And then we have the 3 to 6-year-olds. Here we start working with call and response a lot, right? So first we do like what we were doing with the babies, ooh, 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 ooh. But then it starts getting really complex, right? Where we're doing the vowels and the consonants. And then we're doing different variations. So it could be like ooh, 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 ah. Then can get really complex. Ooh, e, right? And then uh, boo, 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 bo, bo, bo. And then ooh, oh, e. And then it just keeps going. And what we've done is mapped out all of the different syllables and consonants that they could play with, right? So ultimately, they get to be creative with these different consonants and in the exercises that I just showed you, right? So there, so that's some of the work with the 3 to 6-year-olds, and we'll talk about a lot of the body percussion. There's so many exercises that could go on forever here. Okay, and then we get to the 6 to 12-year-olds. I'll just show you the geometry classes for the 6 to 12. Actually, the 3 to 6 even do this one. This is the exercise where they go out into nature. It's called Patterns of Nature. They go out into nature and collect all the different things they can off the ground, right? And then they come back and we set up let's see, 8 boxes that show all the different possible patterns of nature. And then they take the things they found in nature and put it into one of these 8 boxes, right? Sometimes things need to go in 2 boxes. They've got two of the pattern, but they're learning the archetypal patterns of nature, right? It's very, very cool, right? There's another exercise where they actually count the spirals within the Fibonacci curves within pine cones, and they see that there's 3 in the middle, 5 in the next row, 8 in the next row, and so they count spirals and a lot of different things from nature, right? They're actually learn that they do the golden mean of Fibonacci. Here, Richard has a whole thing for recognizing patterns. When you have a pattern of 4 or 8 or 6, or you have 12 or 16, and so you can see it in hubcaps, you can see it in mandalas, you can see it in all types of paintings and drawings. And so you see it throughout nature in all of the flowers and all of the just everywhere, right? So they can recognize patterns really easily. Then it's really cool. We have them actually not only draw the flower of life, but actually find all of the different geometries within the flower of life. Like these are all the geometries that you can find within the flower of life. So we have to say, okay, see how many geometries you can find in the flower of life, and it's just so cool to be working with patterns that are archetypal patterns of perfection with them, right? So it goes on and on. And the geometry lessons are so much fun, right? So that gives you some idea, but you see that every exercise is written out in minute detail, right? Okay. Then we've got let me tell you about the rhythm exercises. These are the ones that I like the most. So imagine you're 3 years old, right? And we're going to do this. So this is interactive. So everybody gets to actually do some body percussion now. Okay. So let's start with just one. So tap your leg. The 3-year-olds can't clap, I learned. Okay. Just hit your leg. One. And then one. Okay. And then you can hit your leg and your chest. 1, 2, 1, 2. So we keep going until it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? But then we also have different geometries to show this that they work with later on, right? So that's 1, 2, right? So this is 1, 2, 3. You get a triangle. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So let's do this now a little more complex, right? So let's say instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say u, a, e, right? So, but let's do it this way. Hit your leg, hit your chest, and then snap and clap. U, o, a, e. Leg, chest, snap, clap. U, o, a, e. U, o, a, e. U, o, a, e. U, o, a, e. U, right? Got it? U, leg, chest. Right? Okay, now keep going. U, o, a, e. Now we're going to do it fast. U, a, e. U, o, a, e. U, o, a, e. U, o, a, e. U, o, a, e. U, o. Okay? Gets very cool. This is so good for the body. It's so good for the brain. It's so good to be using left and right arms. But then we get a little more complex, right? So let's do the 8. But now we're going to take the 8 and divide it into subdivisions. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. We're even creating wood where they can actually tap right on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 on this grid, right? So they can ultimately tap. They're going to be doing body percussion as well with this. Okay, so now we're going to do u, o, a is the 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be one. It's going to be u, o, a, u, o, a, u, o, right? Okay, but now u, o, and a are going to be a chest slap, snap, clap. Chest slap, snap, clap. Okay? Okay, here we go. U, o, a. U, o, a. U, o. U, o, a. U, o, a. U, o. U, o, a. U, o, a. Right? Gets a little complex. It's so cool with the 3 to 6-year-olds when I'm doing this. We got pretty far in just an hour, right? Over a few years, they're doing, and they're getting to choose the vowels. They're getting to choose the consonants, and there's so many possibilities. Let's do another one. This time we're going to do the u, o, a, but we're going to be silent on the second one, on the o. Okay? So it's u, a. I can't do it myself. U, okay. U, a. U, ah, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ooh, right? Tricky, right? Tricky. And then we go slow enough so everybody gets it, and we do the easy ones first, and then build up until people are like, right? It's like really cool, right? So there's another one here that is cool. We actually show different maps. So this is like chest slap, ta, na, ta, na, ti. Ta. So this is 5, but in 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Ta, na, ti. Ta, na, ti. So chest slap, snap, chest slap, snap, and clap, right? So we map it out for them as well, right? So after many years, we also even add in the musical intervals. So they go ta, na, ta, na, right? They can do accents as well, but we show we go into the musical intervals. And after many years of doing these body percussion on this grid, we go, you know that grid you've been working with of the circle for many years? If you connect all of the dots on an 8 grid circle, a 10 grid circle, and a 12 grid circle, you actually can draw, and we will draw, every geometry in the world. And here is the meaning of each of those geometries that you've been tapping on for years and playing with. Right? I just get chills. It's so cool. It's so cool. Right? The meaning of the geometries based on the way Plato taught it, right? And where those geometries manifest in nature. Ultimately, how you can even use them for healing is what we get into, right? So we're using multi-sensory movement and geometry together, right? So much, so cool. It's so fun doing the exercise with the different age groups, at each age group. We even had the 18-year-olds figure out which crystal bowl did they resonate with? What's their home note, right? Okay. We've got about 200 hours of videos with these kids, but we can't really use it because we didn't get permission from the parents, right? But we've got video of a kid, of a room of 3 to 6-year-olds, where I'll say, I'm going to play the crystal bowl and raise your hand when the bowl goes to complete silence. You ever seen a room of 3 to 6-year-olds completely still? Because it takes 5 minutes for the bowl to fade out, and they're all like this. And then, once it completely fades out, if you've ever listened to a crystal bowl fade out, everybody's completely still. And I say, it's like it's still there. And they're all like, yeah. And they're so still. This is so major for the atmosphere in the classroom, right? On our website, we've got a area where you can download the exercises for free, right? It's not working yet. It should be working tomorrow. The conference has been a little overwhelmed with the conference. So we got a lot of all this information, all the different tracks on the website. If you roll over, you get all the details. We've got the background. We've got the objectives we went over. Here's all of all of the research and assumptions. If you roll over, you get the details of each one of those from those books, right? Or from the assumptions that we've come up with in the school, in the sound healing school. So we got all of those. We got the examples of an exercise, so you can check it out, and a little more information on the feedback from the Montessori instructors, and also questions, right? What if I can't make sound as a parent? Well, we can do workshops to get you back to being a kid. That's our specialty around here, getting you back to being a kid so you can actually make sound again, right? And so there's all these different questions here. Do we provide tech support? Well, with the free exercises, we don't, but with the more detailed exercises, with the ones you pay for, we do. So for each age group, you get, free exercises you can download. It's 21 exercises total for the 3 to 18 month, 76 exercises for the 18 month to 3 years, 212 exercises for 3 to 6, 133 for 6 to 12, and 133 for 12 to 18. They're very similar, 6 to 12 to 12 to 18, right? And so all the details, and you can click and get a detailed list of all the exercises. So 500 exercises, right? So it should be ready tomorrow. And it's not very much. I think it's like $125, or all exercises 188, right? This is our nonprofit, so it all goes back into the till to help us actually get this out there, right? This is all owned by the nonprofit that got the actual grant from the foundation. So it is a 501c3 that is doing all of this. Okay. Now, let's see. Next. Okay. Free downloads. Now, we've got a list. Oh, God. I'm scared to even show you this. We've got a list of all 2,500 exercises for each age group, the categories, what they do, and we've mapped them all out. And we got the equipment they need, any graphics that's needed for every single exercise, right? But we don't have them written out in detail. We only have 500. So our plan is to finish these exercises and then get it out in the world, right? So there's a lot to go here. Now, here's our goal. Finish those 2,000 exercises. Oh, I got that in there twice. Okay. Complete the 2,000 exercises. And then even develop more exercises. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the field that have already come up with these exercises, right? With exercises for kids. So we're going to even add more that really fit in and make sense, right? Because we're really careful about the formatting of these exercises. The Montessori format that I just showed you is so detailed that anybody could teach it, right? Any parent, as long as they are able to make sound. So the exercises we come up with have to be have a reason behind them as to what it's going to do for the kids, right? So and then we're going to design the plan for bringing this into the mainstream. The plan so far is to set up a team of evangelists and a lobbying group to go to governments to get them interested. I'm not really interested in going to 1,000 schools and trying to get this into the schools, right? That would take forever. I want to go top down. And we actually presented all of this to the head of the International Montessori Conference a few years back in Prague. And she not only loved it, was ready to go, right? So I got really inspired that government, there's going to be someone in a government, maybe not ours, right? But it's in a government that's going to go, cool, we want to implement this, right? So we're setting up a team to go to governments, but not only governments, uh, um, educational associations that are national, statewide, and even local, right? And introduce it wherever we can. Because we're not talking about adding this to a curriculum, which is practically impossible the way it's set up these days. We're talking about transforming what is there into this. So now the geometry becomes this, and the music program, if there is a music program, becomes this. So it's really a transformation, and we'll go over why it's helpful in a minute, right? It's kind of obvious. So we're putting together a whole team. We've got a lot of funding, plenty of funding to do this big time. So we're going to need a huge group. So we want to create a consortium of the Sound Education Association, all the people that have written the books that want to join, because we're using their ideas, right? we're implementing their ideas. And all of the, anybody in any association, any uh, administrators and any teachers. We've already got, about 100 administrators and teachers from around the world that are really excited. It's amazing how excited people are about this. So that's the plan. We want to figure out precisely the guidelines for getting it into different levels of school, whether it's public or private and such. And then we can expand the curriculum. Let's add math. Already the geometry teaches math, and Richard actually has a way of getting into the details of math. Montessori does math very cool based on geometry as well. But we can expand it into history. We can expand it into all the other areas down the line, right? We can also, we have funding, and we'll be looking for more funding, and then we'll create a research portal for the media and the public, right? So we really need a lot of help, because this is no small job. And the more people we'll have in the association, the better. And we're going to have people that are ready to work on exercises, people that are really high level in the lobbying team, and people that are just, contributing ideas wherever they can, and then people just come to the meetings just to check it out. So you can join at any level you like. And we're going to track all of your time, so at least we know, we can keep track of what you've done, so because we want to honor all the time you put into it, right? All of this is going to result in better health, healthy relationships, expanded learning capacity and potential, and social responsibility that contributes to a better world, right? It's interesting. What governments want is a more peaceful learning environment. A lot of these public schools are dangerous these days. It is really difficult to create an environment for learning. What's cool is the kids doing these exercises not only go to a place of peace and stillness all throughout the day, but they love the exercises. They can't wait to do them, right? There's a company that did something similar to this based on local mantras in India. And they said over the last couple of years, it's transformed the environment drastically. It's so much more focused. The kids are so much more focused. So that's huge. But also, we're not doing music and sound and vibration as, being musicians. It's about health. It's about health mentally, emotionally, and even physically, right? And of course, what governments want is more productivity, right? Well, goodness, when you are more focused and more and see the way the universe works, it gives you way more creativity. We're working with the right brain as much as the left brain. Schools are overwhelmed. Kids are overwhelmed with left brain stuff. It's well proven when you get a nice balance of left and right brain work, it's way better, and there's not as much stress, and the whole world opens up where you have a balance of left and right brain work, right? So this is where we're headed. Here's the problem. You can't call it sound healing anymore. We're not doing healing, right? In fact, it's not even just sound. It's like really vibration. But it's geometry as well, right? It's emotional expression. So we call it the Sound Education Association because it's nice to have a sound education, right? But that's the tricky part, is to not get pigeonholed into sound healing, right? Because we've already run across that a little bit. Although of all the administrators and instructors I've come across, they are actually really open to this, way more than I ever thought. Like, it's pretty rare that somebody goes, sound healing? God, we're not doing healing for the kids. I mean, you're going to teach them to heal each other? No, no, we're teaching physics, right? Vibration, which is the way the whole universe works. This is unbelievable. What I've seen in the 200 hours of videos with the kids is unbelievable. It is so cool at every age group. Unbelievable. But this is what really blows me away, right? To imagine a child from 3 months all the way up to 18 years going through a program like this. Oh my God, that child is going to be a completely different being, completely different, dramatically different in their body, connected to nature and source, ready to go creativity, oh God, and ultimately ready to heal each other, in the end, although that's not our focus. But they'll go, oh my God, everything I've been learning is all about a new medical system, is all about healing ourselves and healing each other. It's about healthy relationships. It's about better connection to ourselves, better connection to others, and better connection to nature and spirit. The natural patterns and energy found in sound, music, and vibration and geometry help the children to return to a tangible connection to nature so they can understand their place in the greater whole and how to use these natural energies to help make a better world. Next meeting, December 13th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. I hope you can join us. Thanks for listening. I'll go ahead and take some questions now.
All righty. Well, we had one, you were just talking about the modules. So I would just start off with that. Terry asks, can you purchase the modules separately? Meaning, if I only want modules for teens, is it the same cost, or can you do that in sections?
Yeah, I've got it set up so you can buy it for, you can get the free for any age group. You can get half of it for every age group, and you can get all of that for that age group. So you can get the exercises for any specific age group as opposed to the whole thing. Secretly, though, I can tell you, once have people come into the Sound Education Association. If you're really serious about helping and going to be there, I'm going to give it to everybody, right? So everybody can get everything. Because we're also going to be giving this curriculum to hundreds and hundreds of schools, maybe even, ultimately, maybe it's all free. Based on our funding, it will be all free. I mean, we have to keep some sense of value, right? Sometimes you give it away for free and it doesn't have any value anymore. But ultimately, it's not about making money. But schools that need help can always submit, and we will give it to the entire curriculum to them for free, ultimately.
Perfect. That's beautiful. We also had a question. Where am I here? Sorry about that. Oh, yeah, another just specific one about the actual connection to this. The Sound Education Association, when they went on the website, doesn't seem to have an email update option. How do we sign up to be involved? From Jeremy.
We should have it tomorrow. You can email me at david@soundhealingcenter.com. But by tomorrow, at the latest Tuesday, I'll have the email contact on that working. Yeah, it's just been a little overwhelmed with all that's going on with the conference. Yeah. So, yeah, either email me, David at Sound Healing Center, or just sign up there. And then we're going to send everybody a form as to how involved they want to be, what what their background is, and so we can start building the key 22 people to manage this, right?
The
Cool.
22 people, perfect. And I am going to just ask if anyone else has any questions, feel free just to throw them in right now. I just have a couple more short ones. One was, if we're interested in helping with exercises, what do we do next? Which I think you pretty much just answered that
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're creating right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And the final one is more of a comment from John Stewart Reed. And he just wanted to say, David, I'm so glad that you're discussing children because I see the importance of involving children, sound, and somatics. That's why he's developing a
Oh,
child somatoscope within a STEM course, and they've already had just amazing success with this. Wants to know if you're interested in this. He had to go, but he's super excited to possibly bringing this into the group.
oh my God, it is so cool. I've already been thinking we'll have metal plates that we
Yeah.
connect a microphone to, and the kids can not only put frequencies in, but like make sound into it and see the patterns in the sound, right? But John's got one that's way more sophisticated for kids now. Oh yes. So we're talking about having,
Mhm.
for the young ones, having wave machines. There's a whole company that makes wave machines so you can study the way waves work in a little tub, right? You can see,
Amazing.
nodes and antinodes. You can see standing waves and all these different things. So we're going to have all these different toys so they can understand vibration in the whole universe. It'll be so fun. I want to go back to school.
I think you are. That's amazing. Well, that is all the questions that I've been given. This is so absolutely incredible and informative, and I'm excited to see taking this education, applying like what you see in a sound wave and in a tub, and like into your own cells and into the waters of our bodies. It's an absolutely incredible.
Yeah. It's so cool because, I mean, this has just been the work of uh, about 15 people uh, totally involved in this. I mean, there's really been two or three of us that like did a huge amount of work, but to get like this large group to contribute, oh my God, it's really a lot. I mean, even putting this presentation together, there's so much going on with it, and I mean, just to even look at 2,500 exercises, like, oh my God, oh what, right? It's so all the help I can get because I really believe to help the world. I mean, if you get the kids totally entrained into themselves in connection to nature, oh my God, they're going to affect thousands of people in their lifetime. And it's going to expand dramatically. And then one day we get past the last problem, and that is the parents. We can do books for the parents as well in the beginning, but eventually the kids are going to be the parents. And now they're teaching their kids, oh, hi, ba, 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 right? And then, and because it's so fun and so effective, I think it's really going to catch on like wildfire throughout the world, right? I just really feel it. Thank you all. Any other questions anybody want to put in the chat or any comments or anything? Now that I'm done, I can look at the chat here. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to, okay, on the parasympathetic conf this week, we had a research group looking at ultrasound, particularly through the vagus nerve. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, yeah, nice. Okay, so we're going to end this, and then I'm going to do immediately, I'm going to do a final meditation for the whole conference, right? So thank you all for joining us, and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, let's see. Okay, I gotta end this and then play a final video. Okay, is this the right one? No, that's the opening. Oh, where's the other one? Oh, I can't find the closing video. Oh, there it is. We got it. Everybody tone among yourself or tone along with this.